Well, what an evening. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Geekout reaction for three billboards. I'm gonna look at the title because there's no way I'm getting it right.
Billboards.
Oh, can you get it right? Let's see.
3 billboards on or at Ebbing, Missouri.
Damn, you got everything right except the one part I thought you were going to get right. 3 billboards outside.
Oh, outside, okay.
You got the name of the town right though. Good for you. But yes, you guys are probably going, why are you talking about this film? There is like nothing being wide released this week except for this, but there are 2 huge releases that are in super limited release this weekend, and we tried to go and see one of those 2 ones, but because they're in super limited release, they sold out way in advance, and MoviePass will not let you order tickets online so you can reserve them. So when we got to the theater and saw they were sold out, I was like, well, I have really been wanting to see this one, and it's been limited release up until this weekend, and this weekend it goes wide release. Let's go ahead and watch this one. And here's the thing. Out of the 3 movies I wanted to go and see this weekend, 2 of them I was like, you know what? You'd probably really dig them and have some really good stuff to talk about. This was the one that I wanted to see, but I was like, you're gonna probably hate this.
I don't hate it, I just thought it was okay. Like, it was not my kind of movie.
Definitely, that's what I meant to say. It's like,
yeah.
I was like, man, this is definitely not yours. And of course, it's the one that you ended up getting dragged to. But yes, for anybody who has not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, it is not a review. In a review, I sit down, think of everything I want to say, write it all out, give it a score at the end, and there are no spoilers. And the post-Geekout reaction is just an open, honest discussion between the 2 of us about the thing that we just watched, and that does include full spoilers. And there is some big spoilery ass stuff in here, but not really as far as like plot wise.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that I can say about 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. It's one of those films where it turns to you and goes, hey man, sometimes shit just doesn't get resolved. It's just like life, right?
Yeah.
And I have said on many episodes of this show in which we have talked about films like that, I hate films like that because I'm of that like mindset that is like, yeah dude, but this is a story. You have to tell a story. This is one of those times in which I'm like, no, it works for me. Like, I'm totally fine with them choosing to do it that way.
Yeah, it's like, I'm kind of with you on like, I want a story, but at the same time, it's like, the way this was like plotted out, like sorted out basically, laid out, it's not disappointing.
Yeah, there's definitely, I counted no less than 7 times in this movie that I went.
Meanwhile, I was just like, oh.
Yeah. I was animated next to you, which in all fairness, the ladies behind us were animated as well.
Yeah.
But when this thing was over with, I was like, oh, and like, it's not even like a huge like thing that happens at the end. It's not like, oh my god, the whole town is dead now or anything like that. It's one of those things where it's just like, I can't, my emotions have just gone through so many stages in the span of 2 hours. I've been so tense, and then laughing, and then tense again. This is a film that can really just affect your emotions, and it's one of those movies where, like I said, don't go in there expecting anything to get resolved, but also don't expect this to even follow like a story structure. That's one of the most interesting things about this film, is that this is a film where major shit happens at the moment where in like the classic 3-act story structure, it would not have happened at that moment. In fact, the 3rd act itself has an entire 3-act structure within itself. Like, there's an entire like character rise and fall and rise again, all within the span of the 3rd act. It's nuts the way that this movie is structured, and I think it does that to try and play into the feeling of, hey man, it's like life sometimes. Sometimes like this stuff just doesn't go down in the way that story would. Yeah,
it's like I actually did feel like you were watching like real people going through life, because
oh boy,
the acting was great.
Let me just go ahead and say this. I always screw up the pronunciation of her last name. Frances McDormand. I always want to say Frances McDowell. Frances McDormand. She played Mildred, the main character in here. I would like to tack on back in our discussion of Get Out, in which I said I'm going to give the Academy of Motion Arts and Pictures a preemptive go fuck themselves for not nominating Get Out for anything. I'm going to tack on Frances McDormand's performance in here, because I really think that this is a film that is going to slip under the Academy's nose, and they're not going to nominate it for anything. dear God, she deserves like Best Actress.
Yeah, it's like, and
Ooh,
because
man.
the acting is so well, I feel like you can get over the fact that there is no like storyline.
Yeah, you are just spending time with really complicated characters for 2 hours as really crazy shit happens.
Well, I didn't really think it was that like you know how like you were obviously more invested than I was.
I was about to say, like, everybody out there just saw my reaction was like, what?
No, it's like you were obviously more invested than I was. I wasn't.
It didn't grab you.
No, it didn't. I didn't find it as engaging. Like
I think one of the reasons why I found this so engaging is throughout the entire thing. This takes place in a really small podunk town, and I grew up in a really small podunk town. I spent the entire film looking at this going, they nailed the feeling of where I grew up. This feels exactly like where I grew up. I kept thinking, this feels exactly like the town I grew up in North Carolina throughout this entire movie. And at the end of this thing, we always stay through the credits, not because we think Nick Fury is going to show up at the end of the film and ask Frances McDormand to join the Avengers. But even when I know there's not a post-credit scene, I always stick around because I just have that mentality of, you know what, people worked on this thing, and they deserve to have someone sit there and like, even if I don't like remember anybody's names or like look at anybody's names, just like acknowledge how many people like went into this. But also,
unless it was a really shitty movie. Like
I've started through some really shitty films just to vent. But also, to me, the credits are like the period mark at the end of something. It's like, like it's the after dinner mint is what the credits are to me. So I always like to stick through the credits. And at the very end of the credits it goes, we would like to thank the people of Asheville, North Carolina, and went, oh my God! Like,
yeah,
I'm not from Asheville, but still, I kept thinking, this feels like my town in North Carolina. Most of the towns in North Carolina feel exactly the same. It was North Carolina.
Yeah, it's I knew this film would like resonate with you because of the fact you grew up in such a small town, and a lot of people are like that in small towns.
I also just kind of have, yeah, it's that, and also I just kind of have a thing for movies where everybody is just kind of a shitty human being to varying degrees. And it's like, yeah, this is that movie where even the nicest people who you want to root for will do some really shitty stuff. And even the biggest absolute monsters in here will have a moment in which you're like, God damn it, they're doing something really good in here, and I'm kind of on their side right now. But as you're saying.
It's like, it wasn't a flat line, not like, I know you use the word flatline for something that doesn't like have a lot of motivation, but like for me.
Or like shifts.
Shifts, yes. Yes, like for like a flat line would be like down here and straight across. For this movie, it'd be like up here and wiggling for me.
But like not wiggling enough. Like you didn't go on a run.
No, okay. It wasn't a roller coaster. It was more like going down a bumpy road.
That's kind of what yeah, like I said, this film does not have a story structure to it really. And I don't mean that in negative, like no one knows what they're doing with this story. That's kind of the point of this. It's just really shitty things happening to varying degrees to people over the span of a month. Which that was one of my small complaints, is that you don't really get a sense of how much time passes in this movie. That was a complaint. And there are some other complaints I have that I'll get into in just a moment. But we need to actually let people know what this film is about, because I really feel like the vast majority of people out there who are watching this have no idea what this movie is.
Yeah, I didn't even know what this movie was about until you like told me, oh, it's about this woman who put up billboards because she's mad at the police for not finding the murderer of her daughter and everything, and that's all I had to go on. That's
all that I knew as well, because like I wanted to see this because A, it had been getting amazing reviews, but also it was from the writer and director of In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. And In Bruges, I never saw all of it. I saw like a couple scenes on TV, and I was like, it seems fine. I never returned to it. But Seven Psychopaths I saw, and I love Seven Psychopaths. It's a fantastic, underrated film. So I was like, all right, cool. And there's a guy at my store who I talk with about movies all the time, and he was telling me, like, I don't want to tell you too much. Like, he just told me the premise that I told you.
Yeah.
And he goes, and from there, I'm not even going to say anything. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go into it. So, yeah, I didn't know anything else about beyond that either. And then you get into it, and, yeah, you can't really describe, like, the story of this film. Because it is just like, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. But, like, it does feel like things happen because of like escalations.
Right.
Like, it doesn't just feel like random things, aside from one scene that felt really freaking random in here. That I'll get into in a moment. But what this film is about is about this woman who, it's Frances McDormand, her character's name is Mildred. Mm-hmm. She keeps driving down this one road because it's where she lives, and right out in front of this like road that no one has gone down ever since the highway opened up, there are these 3 beat up old billboards. No one has used them since 1986. And she gets an idea, and she goes, all right, I'm gonna pay you for an entire year to have billboards up there. And the 3 billboards, it says, was
raped while dying.
Was raped while dying, but no, second billboard, but no arrests were made. Next billboard, what's your excuse? God, what is his name? Willoughby.
Willoughby, yeah.
Yes. What's your excuse, Sheriff Willoughby? That's what the 3 of them say. Was raped while dying, no arrests were made. What's your excuse, Sheriff Willoughby? And basically, like, as the story goes along, it's, yeah, her daughter was raped while she was being murdered. Her body was burned alive, and that was 7 months ago, and there were no arrests made, and because they just couldn't find who it was. Mm-hmm. And she has decided, well, I'm going to put up these billboards just basically to remind the cops, you have a fucking job to do. Get out there and do your job. Do it. And a lot of people might be hearing this and thinking, that sounds really horrific what happened. This movie is what I like to refer to as a trigger warning film.
Yeah, I mean, we already said the word rape, so...
Yeah, and here's the other part. Trigger warning for what? Everything?
Yes.
Because here's the other thing. This reminds me of where I grew up, and where I grew up, people were not politically correct, by which I mean they would use really racist and bigoted and homophobic and ignorant and sizist, because Peter Dinklage is in here. Yeah, they use like they use every word in here, but it never feels like they're using it just to be like
just to be mean.
Just to be mean.
It's just how they were raised.
No, I wouldn't even say like, that. Well, I mean, there's that, but I mean, they use it to let you know this is who these people are.
Yeah.
None of, like I said, I like stories about people who are just fucked up individuals. And the thing about this film is that even the nicest people in here do really fucked up things and have really fucked up sides to them. But even the most fucked up people in here kind of will do a nice thing at one point that's like, oh, god damn it, all right. And yeah, I think that the language that they use in here, it's really terrible language, but it lets you know everybody in here is really fucked up and a bad person in some way, shape, or form. Like, even the mom, who you follow, and you're like, dear God, she has gone through so many terrible things, and she just wants justice for her child. She will end up doing some horrible stuff at points in time in this film. You will probably understand her motivations more than other people.
Yeah, but still,
she does some horrendous stuff in here.
She goes to like very big, long extremes. She goes to very extremes.
Yeah, but she is a hard as nails badass throughout the entire film, though. Like, you never get the sense that like she was just this normal average mother and then all of a sudden she just got turned down this dark road. No, you get the feeling like she could whoop anyone's ass this side of the county line.
Yeah, like there's like a quick flashback to like the last time she saw her daughter, and like,
yeah, and they're just having a screaming argument with each other and just yelling obscenities at each other, which I kind of didn't like that moment because it plays in that cliche of, oh, I was mean to them the last time I saw them and then they died. But they go to an extent that I was like, dude, why did you write that? Because the daughter wanted to borrow the car and she was like, no, you're not borrowing the car, but I'll give you money for a cab. And they get into an argument, they keep screaming at each other. And then she goes, you know what? I'm just going to walk there and I hope I get raped. And then the mom yells like, well, I hope you get raped too. And I was like, for real? For real? Yeah, that's one of the negatives to this film. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that I still have problems with.
Yeah.
Even though I did really love this film, and it might even be in my 10 best of the year list, but there's still stuff in here that I'm like, yeah, that was stupid. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like there were like only like a small handful of characters that you felt like were sensible, but like they were such minor characters.
The only character in here who I think gets any kind of development and yet remains a good person all throughout is Peter Dinklage. I feel like he's the only one, and even still, he's here in like the beginning of the film playing pool, and then he just disappears. Like, you get the sense that, like, he has a crush on Mildred, and, like, he'd like to take her out for dinner, but then he's just gone for the next hour and a half of this film.
Yeah, and then
he pops up, and then you actually get character development on him, and I was like, dude, where were you throughout all this?
Yeah, I kind of felt that way with Dixon?
Oh, you mean...
The police officer?
Oh, really? You mean the character development part, or do you mean the, like, just not being there? Because he's
the character development part.
Okay, because he's here throughout the entire film.
Yeah,
Dixon is his name.
Dixon, right.
Played, by the way, by Sam Rockwell, who, whenever Sam Rockwell plays an idiot and an incompetent goofball, I always think he's Dax Shepard. Because he, like, there's something about them that just reminds me of each other, except that Dax Shepard can't really act and he always plays an idiot. Sam Rockwell can act really well and he plays every type of character out there. But whenever he does play like an idiot, which he tends to play in a lot of the films by this director, he was kind of also an idiot in Seven Psychopaths. I spent like the first half hour of this film going, man, when did Dax Shepard get so good? Wow, that's really brave of this director to pick him. Wait, it's Sam Rockwell, never mind. But Sam Rockwell is amazing in here. But he doesn't get any kind of like redemption until the end of it. And I'm not even coming in here and saying he gets redeemed, because he is a horror, like, out of all the characters in here, he's the worst human being. Because when they put up the signs, he immediately goes to the Billboard Guy and starts like just demanding that gets taken down. And the Billboard Guy is just like, I ain't gonna do squat for you. I got paid to put these up. I'm not even touching any of this. And like, they let you know right then, they don't respect him because he is a massive racist. Like, and they never try to hide that throughout.
Like, it's not even just the fact that he's racist, like, he abuses his power. He
is the worst. He is the nightmare scenario for a cop.
Yeah.
Because he is incredibly racist, homophobic, he's a bigot in every way, and like, they keep bringing up, he tortures people. Mm-hmm. And like, the thing is, I don't want to say they try to play it for laughs, but like, his amount of incompetence does come off as funny at times, but I think that was strategically done. Like, they keep bringing up all the terrible shit he does, but he's such an incompetent goofball, just so like idiotic in every way, and because Sam Rockwell is just a damn good actor, they try to turn it into a joke and try to make you laugh. And yeah, I've laughed at like his antics a lot in here because yeah, he was just that big of an idiot. But then there comes a moment, it's right after, this is your last chance to tune out for spoilers, by the way. If you are at all interested in this, because I know a lot of people out there do not know what this film is and have not and weren't going to plan to see it. If you are at all interested in seeing this film, tune out now. This is the last one you're going to get before the big spoilers. There comes a moment after Willoughby commits suicide that he then just walks across the street, all one shot just following him as he walks across the street to the Billboard Guy's office, breaks the window to his door wide open, walks through the broken glass, goes up the stairs, and starts beating the shit out of the Billboard Guy, throws him through the window, goes downstairs, and then just like beats him while he's on the ground. And it was in that moment that my jaw dropped, and I was like, they tried to make him comedy relief to like let you go, oh, he's not all that bad.
Well, I never found him funny. I knew he was an asshole from the very beginning.
Well, that's again, I'm not coming in here going, well, he was funny, so I forgive all that stuff he did. I'm saying they tried to make him funny so that you didn't take the horrible shit he was doing that seriously. And then when this moment comes, it's like, oh, he's a monster. They like tried to make him like comedic relief in here so that you would drop your guard and be like, oh, it's okay. They say he does these things, but when you actually see it, it's like, this movie wanted to turn to you and go, who the fuck in here was laughing at this guy? How dare you? Shame on you for thinking that a monster like this was funny. And it's like, that is fucking brilliant that they just entrap the audience in that way.
And I think like the best part is like when he's done throwing the guy out the window, he goes to him and says, I also attack white people too. It's not just black people or something like that.
He said, see, I got a problem with white people too. And they walked indoors and it's like, but it's implied that the guy who runs the Billboard shop is gay because he comes in and he meets him at the bar earlier in this movie and he's like just he says something to him in which he goes, do you know what they do to gay people in Cuba? Which, by the way, again, they use horrible bigoted language in here, so they didn't say gay people. He says, do you know what they do to gay people in Cuba? They kill them. And then he goes, well, I do know that the civil rights of homosexuals in Cuba are not very good, but I don't think they kill them. Are you sure you're not mistaking that for Wyoming? And I was like, oh, shit. And that's another reason why I love this film, is because, like I said, this reminds me of where I grew up, and they do not try and hide how horrible, like, the stuff is that goes in towns. Like, they never once make the cops in here look like good people. No. And I'm not saying that there aren't good cops out there. I mean, hell, your cousin's a cop. But I'm not trying to say at all, like, cops aren't good people, but it's like, this is not a film in which, like, they point and go, oh, well, here's the hero, here's the good people. This is a film about holding a fucking mirror up to small town America and going, here's all the fucking problems in your town. These people and these situations are going on in your town right now. Like, the crazy shit in here, it's happening in every town in America right now. That's what this film is. And that's one of the reasons I loved it so much, is that, yeah, it was just a film about going, yeah, this is real life. And this is the fucked up stuff that happens out there.
Like, I didn't put the two together, like he threw the guy out the window because he thought he was gay. I thought he threw him out the window because he was the one who approved the billboards. He was. But I'm saying, like, he had a problem with this guy to begin with. Oh, okay. But no, he threw him out because he refused to take the billboards. Yeah, that was like basically the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And one of the things that I love after that scene is as he walks in, there's a black guy standing there looking at what he did, like, what the fuck? And then he just goes, what are you looking at? And then he walks indoors, and the black guy pulls his jacket back and reveals he has a sheriff's badge right there on his waist. It's like, oh, that's your new boss. And then he walks in there and just immediately turns to everyone in there who had been approving just the racist, bigoted, horrible behavior of this entire precinct. Like, we're pointing to this guy because this is the guy who's like the most known for it in the town, but every single cop in this like facility is like, they're all approving of it. Like, there's a moment in which Woody Harrelson, like after Mildred got into an argument with Dixon about his behavior, about like the horrible shit that he had done to people in the past. There's a moment when Willoughby, I keep forgetting his name, when Woody Harrelson comes in and he goes, don't look at me like that. If I fired every racist cop in here, there'd be only 3 left and they're all a bunch of homophobes. And I'd be like, damn, man, this movie just stopped and said, this entire precinct is racist and homophobic. It's like, they make no attempt to come in here and go, these are the good guys. They don't sugarcoat it. Yeah, they do not sugarcoat, like, yeah, small towns will have, like, small towns are full of racism. And, like, this is a film that just goes, yeah, look at it. Look at the horrible shit that's going on out there. And I like films like that. I like films that are not afraid to be like, hey, here's the horrible shit happening in the world. Accept it. Like, not accept it as being like, oh, I'm okay with it. But realize it. Realize that this stuff is going on. Yeah, it's like either... It's like, accept it is like basically what the precinct does with all the people who are already racist. Like, I feel like that's what Willoughby does. Yeah. Like, you don't get the sense that... You honestly kind of get the sense that Willoughby is better than like 90% of the cops working at that precinct. But even he is just like, yeah, but you know, whatever. It's like I'm not as bad as them, but you know... yeah, that's the sense that you kind of get from him. And also, we should probably bring this up, like... Yeah, there's a big spoiler we haven't talked about yet. Yeah, so... Willoughby has cancer. Yeah. And as I mentioned, Mildred is hard as nails in here. And after she puts the billboard up, he comes to her and he's not like, you gotta take that down or I'm arresting you. He just tries to talk to her. He's like, listen,
I understand that you're mad, but there's nothing that we could do. There's no evidence. All the evidence we found doesn't point to anybody. They didn't have any criminal record, so there's nothing that we can track down. There's nothing that we can do. And then she's like, I don't care, I'm not taking it down. You know, I need you to get out there and do your job. And then he goes, listen, I didn't want to say this, but I have cancer. And then she goes, I know. What? Yeah, almost everyone in town knows.
That's another thing about small towns.
Yeah,
like, news spreads real fast.
Everyone's talking. And he was just like, so, and you still decide to put the billboards up? And she just goes, it wouldn't do much good if I put them up after you died. And I was like, fuck, she is cold. But it's like, she's cold because she's like, no, find the person that raped and burned my daughter alive. And I was like, yeah. But at the same time, you kind of look at Willoughby and you're just like, when you hear him say, like, there's no evidence, there's nothing that can be done, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, like there are definitely like officers that are incompetent and don't do their jobs, but then there are ones who actually do their jobs, but there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
And I feel like Dixon is like the one who's like, you know, just an incompetent fuck. But
Dixon is like I said, he is every worst nightmare people have about police officers.
Yeah, but Willoughby is like, he's actually trying. He's actually trying, but
he's somebody who he became sheriff for a reason.
Yeah.
He didn't like slack his way to the top. But at the same time, it's like I said, I'm not trying to make it sound like Dixon, like Willoughby is any better than these guys. No. He still is just like, yeah, I know everyone in my precinct is racist and homophobic. What are you going to do about it? It's like, that's not better to accept this. So yeah, it's one of those films in which, like I said, I really like this film because I enjoy films about just really fucked up, complex people. And I really enjoy films that are just like, hey man, we're not going to sugarcoat how screwed up the world is. And this is a film that does that. This is a film that it is just putting a mirror up to like small town America. And I think a lot of people out there are not going to connect with that. And I think there's also another group out there that they're going to look at like, yeah, you know, people who like grew up in cities their whole lives are going to look at this like, yeah, I told you, yeah, that's what small towns are like. I'm talking about this from a very first-hand experience life. Like, I'm talking about this as somebody who grew up and spent, like, you know, the first 20 to 25 years of his life living in towns just like this. Man, fuck, they nailed it. Yeah.
I think that might be another reason why I didn't, like, really care for this, because, like, I haven't grown up in a small town, and small towns pretty much are like that from personal experience, so it's like, I have no connection. I do not care about these people, really.
That's, yeah. But okay, let's go ahead and say,
I mean, it's not that they're not interesting people, it's just that I don't care if they get the reward or...
You don't care about what happens to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well...
but yeah, you don't care about the stakes.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think that there is a personal touch that kind of goes into like appreciating this film. But I will say, to me, what kind of sums up this film, and especially the characters of this film, there's a scene in which Willoughby has got, what was her name, Mildred? He's got Mildred in the interrogation room because she went to the dentist, and the dentist was like, you know, some people in here like Willoughby, and like he's about to start drilling out a tooth in her mouth. And she realizes what he's going to do, so she just grabs his hand with the drill and jams it into his other hand.
It was like he didn't even use the Novocaine, so it's like she knew something was up.
Yeah, and like he didn't even look at it before. He was like, well, that tooth's got to come out. Don't you want to look at it first? Yeah, it's got to come out. And then he starts at the drill. He's like, give me some Novocaine first. He's like, all right, fine, we'll put it in. All right, let's wait a little while. All right, you're good. And then he goes, you know, people in this town like Willoughby, and then she grabbed his hand and then forced it like into his own thumb. Which, yeah, she is a badass in this film.
Although, then again, I don't know if like small towns do have half-assed dentists or not, or that maybe don't even bother numbing the patient.
I had a dentist throughout the first. I had one of the worst dentists I have ever seen in all of existence throughout the first, 20 years of my life. It wasn't until I moved up here in New York that I literally had decalcification on my teeth because I had problems. I'll say that. I don't need to get into my medical history, but I had decalcification on my teeth, and it was just wrecking my teeth. And like, I was ashamed of my teeth for a while, and I kept coming back to this dentist, and it was like, oh, keep looking at it. It was like, do a fucking x-ray. Give me, there has to be something that can be done to my teeth to help them. I came up here to a dentist. The first time I went to a dentist up here, they're like, holy cow, we need to fix all this. And within like 3 visits, I had a perfect row of brand new like teeth that like looked pristine and fine. I was like, this took a month. This took a month to fix something that I've had to live with my entire life. Oh my God. So yeah, there's shitty dentists in the South. There's shitty dentists everywhere. But like, again, first-hand experience, like I said, there's some, like, this is another moment where this film connected with me. But let's go into, so I think something that sums up this movie very well, and the characters in here very well, is that we know that Willoughby has got cancer. And Mildred is in here for assault to this dentist. And he is, like, starting to, like, really move in on her, like basically like, all right, time to get intimidating, time to like step it up, make you take these billboards down, let's get this shit done. And they are like just not backing away from each other, like just getting closer and closer. And then him in mid-sentence, he coughs and blood goes all over her face.
Yeah.
And it's dripping down his mouth, and he goes, I'm so sorry. And then she's somebody who like wants to see this guy like burn for not catching her daughter, goes, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like,
we'll call the cops.
Yes.
You just sit down.
Call the doctor.
Yeah, and it was like, holy, like, yeah, that's kind of what sums up the characters in this film.
Yeah.
They're really intense and really mean-spirited and really cruel to each other, but then there will be that moment of humanity in them, in which like, it's really hard for anyone out there to not kind of go like, oh, poor thing. Even Dixon, who is an absolute monster. Like, if you just lay out the facts of what he is a horrible human being. Like I said, he is a nightmare scenario of a person. He is somebody who is just an idiot, a racist, a bigot, and he is addicted to power, and he abuses it whenever he can.
He's also an alcoholic.
He's also an alcoholic. His mom is also played by Mac's mom from It's Always Sunny, which she has not aged since that show started. I don't know how she still looks exactly the same. But yeah, she's in here, and on Always Sunny, she's just always... Here she actually does some acting. I was pretty impressed with what she could do in here. But there comes a moment in which he's been fired by the new sheriff. He was told to get the fuck out, give him his badge and his gun, and he gives him the gun, and he's like, oh, I can't find my badge. Which comes back into play like really fucking good later in here. Yeah, he keeps making jokes about like how he couldn't find his badge and it's lost. That keeps coming back and back. But he gets fired. And then one night, he is told, like, listen, after Willoughby committed suicide, which, again, Willoughby has... His suicide is one of the most touching things in this entire film. Like, I heard some sniffles in that theater. But after he commits suicide, he sends letters out to everybody, including to Mildred. And, like, what he does for Mildred in here, like, he basically says, listen, I understand your anger at this. I don't blame you for any of this. But the sad fact of the matter is, sometimes senseless violence just happens, and we can't catch them because there's no evidence. And typically stuff like this, it doesn't get resolved until 5 years later, where the guy is drunk in a bar and he's just talking to someone about it, and then he just lets it slip what he did, and then that's how you end up catching him. And it's not climactic, and I know that it's a shitty thing to say, but that's sometimes the best case scenario, and I hope that this works out for you. And honestly, I wasn't even mad about the billboards. In fact, I paid for the entire next month of these billboards.
Yeah, he specifically said, I did not shoot myself because of the billboards. Yeah. I think he shot himself because of his cancer. Like, he didn't want to spend the rest of his...
He wrote a letter to his wife and daughters, basically telling them, we had one really wonderful day together.
Yeah, I felt like he wanted to, like, spend, like, a wonderful day with his family, and then before dying, because he didn't want to spend the rest of his time...
He specifically says in his letter, I did not want to see the pain in your eyes as you watched me die.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I understand that. So yeah, it's a touching-ass moment, even though you've seen this guy being an asshole before this. But he writes Dixon a letter, and Dixon has to go into the office after hours, and they basically told him, yeah, you still have your keys, come in here after hours, I'll leave it on your desk, but leave your keys here because you're done here. And as he goes in, Mildred is across the street from the police station because she found out what happened to the guy who ran the billboard shop right across the street. And she goes in there, looks across there from the broken window, and she just starts lighting Molotov cocktails and throwing it in there. And he can't hear any of this because he's got his headphones in, which is a running gag throughout this. He doesn't hear things because he has his headphones in. And he's reading this letter in which Willoughby basically told him, listen, I know you're not the brightest, but I think you actually can be good. But you have anger inside you. You need to let that anger go. You can actually be a good detective if you stop and think and be calm about stuff. And then by the time he finishes reading this thing, like the entire place is engulfed in flames, and he just looks at the flames and he just goes, stop and think. And then he grabs the file about Mildred's daughter's rape case, shoves it under his shirt and jumps through the flames, and then throws the file into safety. And I was like, holy shit, like this guy knew he was probably gonna die and he decided to try and save Mildred's daughter's file. That's okay. Again, I don't want to say it's like touching because the guy is a monster. He's a horrible person. But then as this goes along, like he's a burn victim and they stuff him in the hospital next in the same room as the billboard guy he threw out the window. Which that was one thing that was like,
what a coincidence.
That was one thing in which I was like, no fucking way would they would have looked at that and gone, no, they would try and murder each other in the middle of the night.
I'm surprised. Like, I thought like the billboard guy was gonna like beat the crap out of him when he found out.
I thought he was gonna throw him out the window. I really did.
I don't think he would like. He's injured, so I don't think he would have thrown him out the window. But I think he would have like probably like punched him in the face or something.
Choked him or something with a pillow.
Yeah. Put a pillow on his face. Like,
he would have one flew over the cuckoo's nest him. Yeah, I kind of got that feeling.
Yeah, it's like, but I kind of felt like that letter thing was too much of a plot convenience.
I agree with you on that. I actually do agree with you on that because like Willoughby is laying. I was like, I know you're good. I know you can do all these things, and I was just like, we haven't seen any of that from this guy. Also,
it says, I know you're angry because your father died. It's like, oh, thank you for the really lame excuse too late in the movie, so...
It's one of those, like, yeah, it's the villain motivation, but it's like,
but it was poorly delivered.
Well, also, it's one of those where it's like, again, it doesn't fucking excuse, like, what he's done.
No, I mean, I understand.
But that's the thing. After this point, like, he's there in the hospital, and he's wrapped up in bandages, and the billboard guy is being nice to him because he doesn't know who he is, and then he just, like, starts crying and going, I'm sorry I threw you out the window. And then the billboard guy starts freaking out. I was like, what? It's you! And, like, you do get that feeling he's going to kill him. But then, like, he just goes, stop crying, because the salt's going to, like, make your wounds worse. And then, like, you see him just, like, fuming on his bed, and then he pours a glass of OJ, sticks a straw in it, puts it on his table, and it's like, I kind of get the feeling, like, again, it kind of goes back to this thing that's, like, he definitely had problems with this guy before, like, any of this, because he's a bigot. And then, like, in this moment... like, after the most horrendous thing, after he did this horrible thing to him, the billboard guy still found it in his heart to be the better person. And, like, you could kind of, like, tell that was, like, Dixon kind of just going, like, what have I done? I feel like that was, like, the what have I done moment. Again, I'm going to say Dixon does some really good stuff in the film throughout the rest of this. But again, I want to make it very clear, none of it excuses what he is or what he has done in this film. But I think that's the point of this movie. As I said, the reason I like this film is it shows the nicest people having horrible sides and the most horrible people having nice sides. And I dig complex stuff like that. Because after this, like, he gets out and half his face is still burned. Like, he's just permanently scarred from this. And he is in a bar, and he hears the person next to him talking about raping and killing a girl and setting her on fire. And I was like, that is way too damn convenient. Except it goes exactly hand in hand with what Willoughby said. This is how this stuff actually does get resolved in the real world. Someone goes into a bar and they get drunk and they get sloppy and they admit to what they did to a friend and someone overhears it, and that's exactly what happens. And then he goes outside, notices the guy's license plate, and then he takes a piece of glass, puts it under his fingernail, and then he steps down and like scratches the guy's face, and then he gets the shit kicked out. Like he just gets turned to a bloody pulp. He races home, takes the piece of like glass with the guy's blood on out.
Skin, like there was a chunk of skin on there.
Skin. He takes the skin out and like out from under like the piece of glass on his nail, puts it in like a little tiny tube thing, and then writes the license plate number down there, and then like passes out because he's just had the shit kicked out of him. And then he goes in, and then he actually goes to Mildred and tells her, listen, I don't want you to get your hopes up too much, but I think we got him. And then it's like, you see this guy who's like, she hated Willoughby, but like everyone in town hated this guy. This guy was a monster. And you kind of see like, all right, these two mortal enemies are kind of bonding.
Yeah, like she hated Willoughby because he hired Dixon and everything.
That was one of the reasons, yeah.
Exactly.
And then after this, it all leads up to the new police chief coming in and going, Dixon, you did a good job. You did right. It's not him. We looked into it. He wasn't even in the country when this happened last year. It's not him at all. I'm sorry. And then Dixon's just like, he's heartbroken because like this, he's been an awful monster his entire life. This was the first time he tried to A, actually be smart, and B, actually tried to do the right thing, and it didn't work. And then he just stands up and he puts his badge down and he goes, I found my badge. And I was like, that line is fucking brilliant in this film. Because he was the worst case scenario for a cop. He was the nightmare scenario for a cop. He is what everybody fears a person will book. He's that person that nobody wants to actually become a cop. Everybody would know. That is exactly what, sorry, I keep repeating myself, but you guys know what I'm saying. And now he's actually trying to be a better person, and he actually is trying to do police work, and he says, I found my badge. It's like, that, we all know what that means. I think that is actually a brilliant line to put in there. And this film ends with him having to tell Mildred it wasn't him. And like, as he tells her this, he has a gun out, and he's like holding it like aimed at his own head, just like Willoughby. Willoughby shot himself in the head, and like, that was another one of those moments that like the entire audience just went, ooh, like me and the person behind us who were also just as vocal as I was.
I think it was more startled by your reaction than like what happened in the movie. Like
everybody, yeah. That's like, again, you didn't really like go on a ride on this thing. I was on roller coasters just zigging and zagging. Yeah, you were like, this is interesting. But after this, he goes, he might not have done this to your daughter, but he did it to someone. And I know where he lives. It's in Idaho. And she goes, that's funny, I was just going to Idaho tomorrow. Do you want some company? Sure. And this film ends with the two of them in the car driving off with a gun in the back seat. And she then says, Dixon, I'm the one who set the police station on fire. And I was like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now? And then he just goes, who the hell else would it have been? And I was like, that is the best way to like kind of wrap this up, because I was like, man, that's gonna be an entire other thing that happens now. It just makes sense for him to know that it was her, and it makes sense that he would have had all this time to already process it. So he would already be like, listen, I've already come to terms with that. But also this thing ends with them saying, so are we sure about this? About actually killing him? And then she just goes, no. Yeah, me neither. Well, we can decide along the way. And then they just drive off, and I was like, that's what this film is. We don't know what's gonna happen with any of this. And it's like, yeah, that's what this movie is.
And it's like, I felt like you don't really know what's happening, and then when you ask a question, it just ends with a nope, which is kind of why I wasn't too invested in this. It's like, oh, are they gonna find out what happens to the girl? Nope. Is he gonna shoot her? Nope. Are they gonna, is he gonna like do this thing? Nope. It wasn't this guy? Nope. Are they gonna actually kill the guy? We don't know. Oh well.
What happens between Mildred and her ex-husband, which that's a whole subplot we haven't even gotten into.
Yeah.
Shit, man. Which, by the way, her ex-husband is dating a 19-year-old, and that 19-year-old was great in this. She was the one thing in here in which I will say is the non-problematic comedy relief.
Her and well, the son isn't really a comic relief, but he's also
he's really good.
I felt so bad for him because like he's just trying to live a normal life, but he has a mom who is obsessed with getting justice for her dead daughter, and he has this abusive.
And he flat out says, "I didn't even read the police report because I can barely contain myself thinking about what happened to my sister." And now you put right in front of our house the words "raped while dying," so I see that every single day. It's like, fuck this poor kid, man.
I know.
Yeah, he is. Woo. Man, when this thing began and he first started popping up, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this guy. He's kind of like not an important part of the story, and it feels like he should be. But as it goes along, it's like, it's because he doesn't want to be a part of the story, but he keeps getting dragged into it.
Yeah, and I felt so sorry for him. I was like, there's always like that one person in like those small towns who isn't a bigoted asshole. Is like, I feel so sorry for you. I hope you get out of here soon. Like,
I kind of connect with that kid a little bit. Although he has a badass moment of his own, which lets you know he is his mom's daughter.
Yep.
His mom's son. Because like they keep mentioning that her ex-husband used to physically abuse her, and everybody keeps going, yeah, well, it's your word versus his. Like they keep bringing that up over and over and over again. Even her kids say, yeah, well, he said the other thing. Like they even say that. Like they don't even believe it. But then there comes a moment in which he comes to visit after this, and he flips the table over and grabs her by the neck and starts choking her. He just emerges like a ninja behind him with a knife to his throat and goes, let her go. And I was like, shit, man.
And then the poor 19-year-old girl was like, I'm sorry, I just need to use the bathroom. It's like, I really hope that... I was hoping that she would like get the hint and like leave him, but then they show up on the date.
Again, life don't work that way.
No, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks.
But the 19-year-old was like great non-problematic comedy relief because like I said, Dixon, they made comedy relief because of how stupid he was, but then there comes that moment which they remind you, in which they basically just go, shame on you for thinking this guy was funny. He's a horrible human being. I was like, yeah, all right, that was kind of brilliant entrapment there. The 19-year-old is just comedy all the way out. But also, Peter Dinklage in here. He is a great person.
Yeah, he just shows up at random times.
It's just there's an hour and a half that they forget he's in the movie. I was like, dude, for real? Why would you waste Peter Dinklage? But then when he does come back in the third act, he's really damn good. Yeah, shit. Okay, we were talking about what were we talking about right before we got into the ex-husband? Shit. This is one, just like this film, we kind of go all over the place.
Yeah, this film does a lot. But yeah,
you were talking about how this film is just a big, like, note to every answer.
Yeah.
I fully understand having a problem with that because, as I have said, I have seen so many movies that try to do that as well, and I'm just like, dude, screw you. Give me some... Like, this is a story. Give me some answers in here. Give me, like, an art. Give me things happening in here.
Well, here's the thing. Things do happen in this movie, so it's not
I think that's the reason why I like this way more than other things. Like, to me, I got the feeling from this that I wanted to get from No Country for Old Men. Because No Country for Old Men was a lot of build-up to something that then happens off-screen, and we never really get resolution to any of it, and then it just ends with Tommy Lee Jones just sitting there like, yeah, sometimes things just don't work out. It's like life, and then credits. Like this one, it was just like, yeah, man, Willoughby's note lets you know right then and there, halfway through this film, that ain't how things happen in the real world. You're not getting answers to this thing, and that sucks.
Yeah, it's like,
and I was like,
it's like, oh, it's gonna be one of those kind of movies, and for that, I just kind of like just sat there through it.
But the thing is,
just, like, I was more like observing it than like getting into it per se.
Yeah.
Like the way you were very into it.
Very into this. Yeah, I got really into this thing, and I think one of the reasons why is because I think that when things happen in here, I was just more moved by it, but also I think it's because this film like was able to establish for me, like I was able to get that feeling when it came to the moment when Willoughby committed suicide, and I wasn't expecting that at all, especially halfway through the freaking movie. I think it was at that point that I realized this is not a movie with a classical story.
Yeah.
And I think I just embraced it at that point and went, that's not what this is. This is a movie about watching just really fucked up human beings just have to like kind of like go through this experience.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a story, it's an experience is the best way I can say it.
And I just sat there, I just kind of observed, experienced it through observing.
Yeah, and I can understand that, yeah. Like I said, I do not blame anybody for not liking this for many reasons. I mean, first off, it's a cringe-worthy film if you get, like, upset at it, like, at even, like... Let me try and phrase this in a better way. As I said, it is a trigger warning film.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, like, have those triggers of, I don't want to hear this thing, I don't want to hear this thing, I want to hear this, I understand. 100%. Not blaming it. I am not coming in here and being like, oh, well, that's not what this film is trying to do. This film is just trying to, like, point out, like, how awful this is, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that. If you do get upset by any of these stuff that we were talking about in here, yeah, man, I understand. I get it. I can't blame anybody for, like, getting upset at this film for that. But also at the same time, it's a film where you're not getting a resolution. You're barely getting an arc to people. Like, the only arc you really get is what happens between Mildred and Dixon. That's it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the story structure in here is weird as fuck because, again, the third act has an entire 3-act structure in there just following Dixon. It's a weird-ass film. So I'm not going to blame anybody for not being into it. But man, I was really into it.
It's definitely one of the better, like, indie kind of movies.
It's very indie. Like, this is not a major studio. A major studio would look at this and go, yeah, we have some notes. And I feel like those notes would really ruin what this film has going for it. This is a film that will beat you the fuck down, is what this is.
Yeah, at least I didn't fall asleep, so...
I don't know how you could fall asleep in this film, because this is one of those films in which is like...
You thought it was very intense. I thought it was like, oh, that's interesting. That's the difference. Interested, invested. Like, yes. Big difference. Like,
it is, but at the same time, I'm saying I don't know how you could fall asleep, because this is a film in which, like, people will be talking for a little bit, being just fine, and then bam, something crazy will happen.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, this ain't My Dinner with Andre, so...
Yeah, except with you, it's just talking and nothing crazy happening at the end. Or is there?
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I think I would give this film, like, I'm not doing an actual review for this, but I think I would give this film like a 9. Like, I really love this. This might be on my top 10 of the year.
Yeah, I'd give it like a B-, C+.
So like on the 1 to 10 scale, like a 6, maybe?
I guess, yeah.
It depends on what, like, grade and scale you go with.
I don't know.
Yeah. You don't even want to talk about this anymore.
No, I'm tired. There's enough talking in the movie, enough talking from you.
Sorry.
I'm just being bombarded with words.
I was gonna take you to see either James Franco playing that dude from The Room or a sea monster love story, and you got treated to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't win on this one.
No.
Also, I really feel like my shirt is not appropriate for all the stuff we've been talking about.
Maybe mine is.
Yeah.
It was Mildred. She's...
I was good with that. I feel so bad for the people tuning into this and saw the Infinity Gauntlet shirt. It was like, he's gonna talk about the Infinity Gauntlet trailer. No. The exact opposite happened. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna have 2 more of these this weekend, and I swear to you, they're gonna be way more fun than this. Even if I can't get into these 2 other screenings because they're all like booked up from what I've been seeing, we'll go and see The Snowman or Geostorm or some dumb piece of shit to try and make up for this. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy, and come back next time. Bye.
Bye.